Hello, I'm Addie Banks, sharing a Hope from History radio broadcast about early Black entrepreneurs in American history to inform and inspire. I always say that if all you know about Black history is slavery and Jim Crow, you don't know Black history. During the early 19th century, North Carolina's economy was boosted by textile mills to satisfy the growing demands for cotton around the world. Warren Clay Coleman, born in North Carolina, was the only Black American to own and operate a textile mill in the United States, the Coleman Manufacturing Company in Concord, North Carolina. I first learned about Mr. Coleman from pictures of his massive brick factory displayed in 1900 at W.E.B. Du Bois' Negro American exhibit in Paris, France, showcasing the progress and achievements of blacks just 35 years after slavery ended. Coleman's story belies the myths of former slaves being unprepared for American success. Warren Coleman was born enslaved in 1849 in Concord. His father was a Confederate general named Rufus Clay Barringer, descended from French Huguenots who migrated from France to England and Germany during the early 17th century and then came to America. Warren's mother was Roxanne Coleman, an enslaved woman owned by Daniel Coleman Sr. Warren was the second of three children between Roxana and Rufus Barringer. As often happened during slavery, Roxana was married to an enslaved man, John F. Young, who was a blacksmith. There is no record of Warren's relationship with Young, but his biological father actively supported him in his career. Coleman's first 21 years was spent doing routine jobs and farm work while enslaved. He was taught barbering and shoemaking. During the Civil War, he applied these trades at a Confederate Army camp. After the war, Coleman was bound or indentured to William M. Coleman, a Cabarrus County planter and lawyer who later became North Carolina's Attorney General. He was indentured until March 1870. Coleman's first venture into business was a store. He also collected and sold rags, bones, and junk. In 1873, he attended Howard University's Model School, studying business. Then he opened a second store located on Main Street in Concord, where he was a barber, and the store specialized in teas, coffee, sugar, syrups, molasses, cakes, and candies. In 1879, he combined his two stores into a large general store that became one of Concord's major retail establishments. Under the guidance of his father, Rufus Barringer, Coleman invested in real estate. His first land purchase was a 130-acre wooded farm. He bought land in the black section of Concord and erected rental houses. Between 1875 and 1904, he developed nearly 100 rental properties. He purchased four farms and a substantial number of city lots and became one of Cabarrus County's largest property owners and most influential citizens. Despite the Victorian era and Jim Crow South, ambitious black businessmen and women earned wealth and recognition through collaborations like the North Carolina Industrial Association and the National Negro Business League started by Booker T. Washington. The American dream was alive, and freedmen were hungry to tackle new opportunities that freedom promised. It was Frederick Douglass who suggested that blacks should build their own mills since they were not hired at white owned mills. Booker T. Washington inspired business development across the country, under his self help philosophy. Coleman caught the spark and ran with it. He wanted to be the first black man to own and operate a textile mill. He was not the first to try. Booker T. Washington, who was famous for successful industrial ventures at Tuskegee, manufacturing bricks and constructing large buildings, attempted to start a textile mill in the mid 1890s in Huntsville, Alabama. Another person tried in Houston, Texas, but to no avail. But Coleman was determined to make his factory effort succeed in North Carolina. Coleman set out to prove he could, and in 1896 he sought partners to collaborate in building a textile factory. By 1897, working with prominent textile industry leaders and successful businessmen in Wilmington and Durham, North Carolina, as well as black elites in Washington, D.C., Coleman found himself in a position to realize his dream. They began with subscriptions of $50,000, then increased to $100,000, including several hundred black Americans, many living in the Concord area. Though predominantly black owned, the company had some white backers, including Washington and Benjamin Duke and Julian S. Carr from Durham, North Carolina. Coleman's plans included a three-story brick building using bricks made on site, hardwood floors, and a floor-to-ceiling hard pine wood beam. Mill plans included between 7,000 and 10,000 spindles and 100 to 250 looms. According to their charter, the factory was allowed to spin, weave, manufacture, finish, and sell warps, yarns, cloth, prints, and other fabrics made of cotton, wool, and other materials. The mill had a 270 horsepower coreless engine to compete with manufacturing standards in or around Boston, Massachusetts. Coleman also envisioned a school, mill village, housing, and other businesses on site. Of this list, they were able to construct several four-room mill houses that were rented out to workers for about $3 a month. Coleman was so committed to this project that it was said he put about every cent of his own money into the enterprise because he was determined to make it succeed. On February 8, 1898, the cornerstone was laid with Masonic honors. Congressman George H. White was the main speaker. Equipment testing began in late 1898. The mill's equipment was refurbished and required lots of maintenance because Coleman could not secure loans for new machinery. But even with setbacks, the mill building was finally completed in 1901. In July of that year, Coleman informed investor Washington Duke that the mill was operating successfully. At the height of its operations, the Coleman Manufacturing Company employed over 350 black workers. The factory boasted assets worth $100,000. Richard B. Fitzgerald, a major brick maker and businessman in Durham, was its first president. Warren Coleman was secretary, treasurer, and manager. The initial board of directors were black businessmen. Coleman wanted the mill to be exclusively run by blacks, but he had to bring in a few whites because insurance companies would not sell policies to black owned businesses. Soon after opening and manufacturing began, the mill faced hard times because of high cotton prices, no fault of their own. These prices caused industry wide economic troubles and created difficulties for all textile manufacturers. In 1902, operations at the Coleman factory were temporarily shut down. Trouble with refurbished equipment added to production problems. Again, Coleman sold personal real estate to keep the factory afloat. Perhaps it was stress, but Coleman fell ill suddenly in 1904 and he died. That year, the company was unable to remain financially secure, and with the loss of Coleman, operations continued to plummet. As a last ditch effort, officers advertised the mill for sale in July 1904. It was purchased by Washington Duke for $10,000 at the sheriff's sale. Duke sold the property in 1906 for $13,000 to Concord textile magnate James William Cannon. Coleman Manufacturing Company was operated for many years as Cannon Plant Number 9. Every day, people drive down Warren C. Coleman Boulevard in Concord and have no idea who this street was named for. In 2015, the Coleman Franklin Cannon Mill was listed on the National Register of Historic Places for its significance as the first Black owned and operated textile mill.